Did you know that for over 2,000 years, people believed that the secret to curing almost any ailment lay in the practice of bloodletting? This ancient medical technique, which involved draining a portion of a patient's blood, was thought to be a panacea for a wide range of illnesses. From the common cold to more serious conditions like pneumonia, bloodletting was the go-to remedy for centuries. Doctors and healers of the time were convinced that by removing blood from the body, they could restore balance and health. The practice was so widespread that it became a cornerstone of medical treatment in many cultures around the world. From fevers to headaches, draining blood was the go-to treatment. The idea was that by reducing the amount of blood in the body, one could alleviate symptoms and promote healing. This belief was rooted in the ancient theory of the four humors, which dominated medical thinking for centuries. It all started with Hippocrates, the father of medicine. Hippocrates, who lived in ancient Greece, proposed that the human body was governed by four humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. According to his theory, an imbalance in these humors was the root cause of all diseases. He thought illnesses were caused by imbalances in the body's four humors, an idea that would shape medical practice for centuries to come. The four humors were believed to correspond to different bodily fluids and were associated with specific temperaments and physical conditions: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Each humor was thought to have its own unique qualities and effects on the body. For example, an excess of blood was associated with a sanguine temperament, characterized by a cheerful and optimistic disposition, so getting rid of excess blood seemed like a great idea. By removing some of the blood, doctors believed they could restore balance to the humors and consequently to the patient's health. This practice was not only common in ancient Greece, but also spread to other cultures, including the Romans and the medieval Europeans. In the Middle Ages, barbers didn't just cut hair, they cut veins too. Barbers were often the ones who performed bloodletting, as they had the necessary tools and skills to make incisions. This dual role of barbers as both hairdressers and medical practitioners was a common sight in medieval towns and villages. That's why barber poles have red and white stripes. These iconic poles, which are still seen outside barbershops today, symbolize the blood and bandages used during bloodletting procedures. The red represents the blood, while the white stands for the bandages that were used to stop the bleeding after the procedure. They symbolize blood and bandages. This visual reminder of the barber's dual role as both a hair cutter and a healer is a fascinating glimpse into the history of medical practices. By the 1800s, even George Washington was treated with bloodletting. The first president of the United States underwent this procedure during his final illness in 1799. Despite the best efforts of his doctors, who believed they were following the most advanced medical practices of the time, the bloodletting likely contributed to his death. Sadly, it often did more harm than good, as the removal of large amounts of blood could weaken patients significantly. In many cases, the loss of blood led to a decline in the patient's overall health, making them more susceptible to infections and other complications, leaving patients weak or worse. The practice of bloodletting persisted for centuries despite mounting evidence that it was not effective and could be harmful. It wasn't until the advent of modern medical science that bloodletting was finally abandoned as a mainstream treatment. Thankfully, modern medicine replaced bloodletting with science-backed treatments. Today, we have a much better understanding of the human body and the causes of diseases, thanks to advances in medical research and technology. Treatments are now based on evidence and scientific principles rather than on ancient theories and practices. But hey, we owe those early doctors credit. They were just trying their best. Despite their limited knowledge and the rudimentary tools at their disposal, they laid the groundwork for the medical advancements we benefit from today. Their efforts, though often misguided, were driven by a genuine desire to heal and help their patients.